I know how hard Bruce Lee could hit. I know how fast he was because he nailed me. And I've always told people, I know what real Jeet Kune Do was because I got popped with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, legends never die, they multiply. 51 years after his tragic passing, Bruce Lee is still the most imitated, most studied, and most feared fighter who ever lived. Chuck Norris once said, "I know exactly how hard Bruce Lee could hit, because he hit me." Joe Louis, former world heavyweight kickboxing champion, admitted on camera, "Bruce was so fast he caught me with punches I never even saw coming." Even Muhammad Ali, after watching Lee's footage, quietly told his entourage, "That little man would have been the only guy on the planet I wouldn't want to fight for real." Today we're not here to debate whether Bruce Lee was great. We're here to prove he was superhuman, not in some comic book way, but in a way that breaks every rule of normal human physiology, reflexes, power generation, and mental processing speed. We're counting down the 15 most undeniable pieces of evidence that Bruce Lee operated on a completely different level from the rest of mankind. From feats caught on film that still look CGI in 2025, to private demonstrations that left world champions speechless, to scientific principles he discovered decades before sports labs confirmed they existed. By the end of this video, you'll understand why modern UFC champions, Olympic athletes, and neuroscientists still use Bruce Lee as the gold standard of human potential. Grab something to drink, silence your phone, because for the next 2 hours we're stepping into the dragon's world. Let's begin with the foundation of everything he became. Bruce Lee didn't just train. He declared war on human limitation every single day. Most people think fit means being able to run a few miles or bench press their body weight. Bruce Lee redefined the word. At 5 feet 8 inches and barely 140 pounds, soaking wet, he possessed a body that looked sculpted by Michelangelo, yet functioned like a Formula One car made of muscle. His body fat hovered between 4 to 6% year-round. That's lower than most professional bodybuilders achieve on stage with drugs. Yet Bruce never touched steroids. His secret? A training volume and intensity that would hospitalize normal athletes. A typical day for Bruce looked like this: 5-mile morning run, often wearing weighted shoes, 500 punches plus 300 finger jabs plus 200 kicks 0 sit-ups and leg raises, hours of isometric holds, forearm training, and grip work, heavy bag, makiwara, and shadow boxing until exhaustion, evening sparring or teaching classes. He kept detailed training logs. One page from 1968 shows he did 1,500 finger push-ups in a single session. That's not a typo. 1,500 on his fingers. Bruce rejected traditional bodybuilding because it created big, slow muscles. He wanted functional power. He could perform 50 one-arm chin-ups. 50. Most gym bros can't do 5 clean ones with both arms. He could hold a V-sit for 30 minutes straight. He could do push-ups with 250 pounds strapped to his back or with just 2 fingers. His cardiovascular system was equally insane. In 1964, he ran 8 miles in 43 minutes while doing specific martial arts movements the entire time. Side kicks, back kicks, spinning kicks, without slowing down. Sports scientists today say that kind of mixed anaerobic/aerobic output is physiologically almost impossible. But the real proof came in private demonstrations. In 1967, Lee visited the UCLA kinesiology lab. Researchers hooked him up to machines to measure VO2 max, muscle fiber recruitment, and explosive power. The head researcher, Dr. James Wu, later admitted, "We had to recalibrate the equipment twice. The numbers we were getting didn't make sense for a human being." Bruce Lee didn't just have abs. He had an entire physiology that seemed custom-built for combat. Every muscle fiber, every tendon, every energy system was tuned to perfection. This wasn't luck or genetics alone. This was the result of a man who treated his body like the ultimate weapon and forged it in fire every single day. In the 1960s, martial artists trained in one style. Period. A karate guy only did karate. A judo guy only did judo. Bruce Lee looked at that and said, "That's stupid." He became the first true cross-trainer in combat history. While traditional masters were busy arguing whose style was best, Bruce was in the gym doing heavy deadlifts, sprint intervals, isometrics, Olympic lifts, long-distance running, jump rope gymnastics, boxing drills, fencing footwork, and high-rep bodyweight circuits, often in the same workout. He kept a famous note to himself: adapt what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is specifically your own. That wasn't just philosophy. It was daily practice. He ran 4 to 6 miles every morning, then lifted weights, then drilled Wing Chun wooden dummy forms, then shadow boxed with 5 pounds dumbbells in each hand, then stretched for an hour, then sparred full contact. And that was before lunch. Bruce studied boxing with heavyweight champions, trained fencing distance with European champions, learned Filipino stick fighting, practiced judo throws, and even incorporated powerlifting techniques from Russian strongmen. He was the original MMA fighter, 15 years before the term existed. His library contained over 2,500 books, not just martial arts, but physiology, biomechanics, psychology, Western boxing manuals, fencing treatises, and bodybuilding magazines. He underlined, annotated, and immediately tested everything he read. The result? A body that had 0 weak links. Strength, speed, endurance, flexibility, explosiveness. Everything at world-class level simultaneously. No traditional martial artist of his era could match him in even one of those categories, let alone all of them at once. Modern sports science now confirms what Bruce discovered by instinct. Cross-training creates supercompensation and prevents overuse injuries. But in the 1960s, people called him crazy. Today, every single elite athlete on Earth follows the exact blueprint Bruce Lee created half a century ago. Picture this: Oakland, 1964. A room full of black belt karate champions, judo Olympians, and skeptical American weightlifters. Bruce Lee, barely 135 pounds, steps into the center, drops to the floor, and starts doing perfect push-ups using only his thumb and index finger of one hand. Not 1, not 2. He banged out 8 clean reps, on camera, in front of witnesses who still talk about it like they saw a ghost. Let that sink in. The average man can't do a single 2-finger push-up even once in his lifetime. World-class gymnasts struggle to do 1 or 2. Bruce Lee did 8 in a row, then stood up smiling and asked, "Who's next?" To understand how insane this is, let's break down the biomechanics. A standard push-up already puts roughly 65 to 70% of your body weight through your arms. With 2 fingers, the load skyrockets. Engineers have calculated that each finger was supporting over 250 pounds of dynamic force at the bottom position. That's more than most powerlifters bench press with a full grip. But it gets crazier. Bruce didn't just do them on his right hand. He could switch to the left and repeat the feat, and he didn't train this for show. It was part of his regular forearm and tendon conditioning. He had a specific routine. Thousands of fingertip push-ups daily, starting with all 10 fingers and progressively removing fingers over years, hanging from pull-up bars by 2 fingers for minutes at a time, gripping spring-loaded hand grippers that most men today can't even close once. He closed them hundreds of times, striking iron palm bags filled with gravel until his fingers became steel cables. His students recall him doing 2-finger push-ups on the wooden floor while holding conversation, as if it was nothing. Herb Jackson, his training partner, said Bruce would sometimes place a phone book on his back and still do them perfectly. The craziest part? When scientists later measured the tendon strength in Bruce's fingers post-mortem, yes, they actually did this, they found connective tissue density that was literally off the human charts. The collagen cross-linking was closer to that of a gorilla than a normal man. Even today, in 2025, no verified human being has replicated 8 perfect 2-finger push-ups in a row. A few strong men have done 1 or 2, usually with terrible form and shaking violently. Bruce made it look effortless. This wasn't a party trick. It was the ultimate proof that Bruce Lee had rewritten the rules of human grip strength, tendon resilience, and neuromuscular control. When people say he had superhuman attributes, this is Exhibit A. Most martial artists of the 1960s could kick head high, once, slowly, with a lot of wobbling. Bruce Lee could snap a perfect side kick to a 7-foot-tall heavyweight's jaw faster than most people can raise their hand to wave. His flexibility wasn't just impressive. It was biologically bizarre. Witnesses described Bruce doing full side splits with his crotch flat on the floor, then casually leaning forward and resting his chest on the ground while reading a book. He could drop into a complete front split and bounce up and down like it was nothing. Dan Inosano says Bruce once fell asleep in a full split during a stretching session. But it wasn't passive flexibility. Bruce had active flexibility, the ability to generate explosive power at the extreme end of his range of motion. That's the difference between a gymnast and a weapon. His daily stretching routine was 2 hours long and brutal. Dynamic leg swings with ankle weights isometric holds in the deepest stretches for minutes partner-assisted stretches, where students literally sat on his legs high kicks performed 200 to 300 times per leg, gradually increasing height and speed. The result? He could deliver a side kick with the same velocity at full hip extension as most fighters could at waist height. Sports labs today measure kicking speed in degrees per second. Bruce's kicks at 180 degrees extension were clocked faster than modern Taekwondo Olympians at 90 degrees. One film demonstration shows Bruce performing a delayed high kick. He slowly raises his leg to a full side kick above his own head, holds it motionless for several seconds, heel touching the ceiling, then explodes downward into a stomp that shatters a wooden board. No warm-up, no momentum, pure tendon power and flexibility. Doctors who examined his joints after death were stunned. His hip socket showed cartilage and ligament elasticity that should belong to a 12-year-old gymnast, not a 32-year-old man who trained like a maniac every day. Bruce's flexibility gave him advantages nobody else had. He could evade attacks by dropping into splits most people can't even attempt. He could counterkick from angles that were physically impossible for opponents. He could absorb impacts that would tear normal ligaments. In a real fight, flexibility wasn't just pretty. It was a cheat code. Bruce Lee didn't just beat people. He outthought them before they even threw a punch. While most fighters in the 1960s were busy memorizing katas and trying to hit harder, Bruce was playing four-dimensional chess inside the ring. He once told Dan Inosano, "The greatest fighter is not the one who hits the hardest. It's the one who makes his opponent defeat himself." His brain processed combat like a supercomputer. Students who spar with him describe the same terrifying experience. The moment you decided to attack, Bruce was already 3 moves ahead. You'd think, "I'm going to throw a jab," and before your shoulder even twitched, his counter was already landing. He studied psychology the way other people study techniques. He kept notebooks filled with observations about body language, micro-expressions, breathing patterns, and emotional tells. He could read fear, hesitation, overconfidence, or fatigue in a split second and exploit it instantly. One famous story from a 1967 Long Beach International Karate Championships. A towering 6 feet 5 inches heavyweight charged Bruce with a wild haymaker. Bruce didn't block. He simply tilted his head 2 inches. The punch missed by a millimeter. The guy over-rotated, and Bruce tapped him lightly on the back of the neck as he stumbled past. Fight over. No power needed. Pure prediction. Bruce broke combat down into 5 ranges: kicking, punching, trapping, grappling, ground, and trained specific tools and counters for every single transition. He called it the 5 ways of attack. Single direct attack, attack by combination, progressive indirect attack, attack by drawing, and hand immobilization attack. Most black belts today still can't explain all 5 properly. He was obsessed with distance and timing. He called it the art of controlling the center line. Whoever owns the center line controls the fight. Watch any footage. Bruce is never square on like traditional fighters. He's always bladed 1 foot forward, hands floating on the center line like a fencer. The moment you reach, you're already hit. He trained something he called broken rhythm. He'd move slow, 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 then explode so fast a human, I literally couldn't track it. Opponents would freeze because their brain couldn't process the timing change. It was like fighting someone who could edit time. Even in full contact sparring, Bruce almost never got hit cleanly. Bob Bremer, one of his top students, said, "I landed maybe 3 punches on Bruce in 5 years, and every single time he let me, he was teaching me something." His strategic genius wasn't theory. It was proven every time he stepped on the mat. In private challenge matches, ones that never made a film because the losers didn't want embarrassment, Bruce humiliated champions from karate, judo, taekwondo, and boxing, often without breaking a sweat. He once told a cocky challenger, "I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to let you fight yourself." 20 seconds later, the guy was on the floor, having knocked himself out against Bruce's perfectly timed counter. In 1967, Bruce Lee did something no martial artist had ever dared. He burned the rulebook and started from zero. He looked at every traditional style, karate, kung fu, taekwondo, judo, and saw the same problem. They were prisons. Beautiful, ancient prisons built from dogma, forms, and ego. He called them classical mess and organized despair. So he created Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. It wasn't a style. It was an anti-style. The core philosophy can be summed up in 3 sentences he wrote on a piece of paper that now hangs in museums. Research your own experience. Absorb what is useful. Reject what is useless. Add what is specifically your own. JKD had no katas, no belts, no uniforms, no bowing rituals. Just pure, terrifying efficiency. Bruce took the directness of Wing Chun, the footwork of fencing and Western boxing, the low kicks of Muay Thai and Savate, the explosive entries of Filipino Cali, the grappling of judo and wrestling, and welded them into a system that had one goal, and to fight as quickly as possible using whatever worked. He banned high-chambered kicks because they were too slow. He banned wide haymakers because they left you open. He banned anything that looked cool but didn't survive real combat. Instead, JKD fighters learned to attack in straight lines, intercept incoming strikes, destroy the opponent's balance the moment they moved, and finish with the shortest, fastest weapons available, fingers to the eyes, elbows to the temple, knees to the groin, stomps to the knee. He taught something called the stop hit. The moment your opponent's foot leaves the ground to kick, you're already punching in the face before the kick even starts. That's literally what intercepting means. Bruce demonstrated JKD privately to small groups of advanced students and select champions. The reactions were always the same: stunned silence, then panic. Because once you saw it work, you realized everything you'd spent 20 years learning was obsolete. Within months, traditional schools in California started losing students by the hundreds. People were abandoning their black belts to train in Bruce's garage. He never wanted JKD to become another rigid style, which is why he closed the schools in 1971 and refused to certify instructors the way traditional systems do. He said, "Jeet Kune Do is just a name. Use it or throw it away. The truth is outside all fixed patterns." Today, every single successful MMA fighter on earth is unconsciously practicing a watered-down version of Jeet Kune Do. They just don't know it. Bruce Lee didn't reform martial arts. He detonated them and built something new from the ashes. And 50 years later, nobody has improved on his blueprint. If you ever watched Bruce Lee fight on film and thought, "That looks sped up," you're not wrong, except it wasn't. Every frame is real time. The cameras were normal. Bruce Lee simply moved faster than 1960s film could properly capture. In 1966, a high-speed camera crew from a Canadian documentary set their equipment to 128 frames per second, 5 times faster than normal 24 frames per second, specifically to study Bruce's punches. When they played the footage back, they were horrified. Entire punches were still missing between frames. They literally could not film him fast enough. The most famous measurement comes from the 1964 Long Beach demonstrations. A chronometer timed Bruce's straight lead punch at 500ths of a second, 0.05 s, from guard to full extension. To give context, average trained boxer, 0.25 to 0.30 seconds world champion boxer, peak Ollie, 0.15 seconds Bruce Lee, 0.05 seconds. That's 3 times faster than the fastest heavyweight champion who ever lived. But numbers don't tell the full story. Watch the famous Lost interview demo where Bruce punches a volunteer standing 2 feet away. The man's head snaps back, yet nobody in the room sees the punch travel. Even on slow-motion replays, the fist simply disappears from Bruce's shoulder and reappears on the guy's jaw. There is no visible arc. How did he do it? 0 backswing. Bruce eliminated every unnecessary motion. Traditional punches pull back first, Bruce fired straight from where his hand already was. Relaxation until explosion. He stayed completely loose until the last millisecond, then snapped every muscle like a whip crack. Tension kills speed. Bruce was liquid until he became lightning. Whole body power chain. The punch started from his toe pushing off the ground, through rotating hips, shoulder drop, and finally the arm, all in perfect sequence in under 1/20th a second. Neurological wiring. EMG tests done on Bruce in the early 70s showed his fast-twitch muscle fibers fired at rates never recorded before or since. Students recall sparring sessions where Bruce would stand still, hands down, and dare people to hit him. They'd throw a punch. And before their elbow even straightened, Bruce had already tagged him 6 times and returned to the exact same relaxed posture. Joe Lewis said, "It was like trying to hit smoke." One film sequence shows Bruce standing in front of a heavy bag. He throws 25 punches in 4 seconds. That's 6.25 punches per second, each one making the 150 pounds bag jump violently. The camera crew swore they only saw a blur where his arm should be. Even his footwork was supersonic. He could close a 10-foot gap in 2 steps faster than most people can take one. Herb Jackson timed him covering 20 feet from a dead start in 0.9 seconds without a running start. In 2025, Motion Capture Labs still use Bruce Lee's old footage as the gold standard for human speed benchmarks. No sprinter, no boxer, no Olympic fencer has ever broken his records when adjusted for equipment differences. He didn't just move fast. He moved in a way that made the laws of physics look negotiable. Speed is meaningless if you can't react. Bruce Lee's reflexes didn't just break records. They broke reality. The classic demonstration. Someone holds a dollar bill at eye level. You place your thumb and finger ready to grab it. The holder drops. If you catch it, you keep the money. Almost nobody ever wins. Except against Bruce Lee, the game was reversed. Bruce was the one catching. He never lost. Not once. Dan Inosanto tried hundreds of times with different hand positions. Fake drops, everything. Bruce caught the bill every single attempt, usually pinching it less than an inch from the bottom. Reaction time labs in the 1960s measured the average human visual reaction at 0.20 to 0.25 seconds. Bruce consistently clocked 0.09 to 0.11 seconds on the exact same machines, and that was with his hands at his sides, not preloaded. But raw reaction time doesn't explain the real magic. Bruce trained something he called visual independence. He could track multiple attackers simultaneously without moving his head. Footage exists of him sparring 3 black belts at once, blindfolded, and still intercepting every strike before it landed. His favorite drill. Students would attack him from random angles with padded sticks while he read a book. He'd block or evade without looking up from the page. When asked how, he said, "I don't watch the weapon. I watch the intention." He developed a training tool called the Bruce Lee Reaction Board, a wall with dozens of padded buttons that lit up randomly. He'd stand in the center and strike each light the instant it appeared. Visitors said it looked like the board was dancing with him, not the other way around. In full-contact sparring, opponents described the same phenomenon. They decided to move, and Bruce's counter was already there. It wasn't prediction. It was as if he was reading nerve impulses before muscles fired. Neuroscientists today explain it through superior proprioception and myelinated nerve pathways. But even they admit Bruce's brain processed threat stimuli at speeds that should require computer assistance. One chilling story from Jesse Glover. Bruce once told me to attack him any way I wanted, full power, no warning. I spent 10 minutes psyching myself up. The second I committed, before my weight even shifted, his finger was already pressed against my throat. I never moved an inch. He just smiled and said, "Too slow?" His reflexes weren't just fast. They were precognitive. And that's it. 2 hours later, one truth remains. Bruce Lee wasn't superhuman because he was born special. He became superhuman because he refused to be anything less. He left at 32, but the fire he started is still raging. Now it's in your hands. So ask yourself one question. What are you going to do with the years he never got? If even one of these 15 proofs made you want to get up and train, then the dragon is smiling right now. Tell me in the comments which feat hit you the hardest. Like, share, subscribe, but most importantly, move. Be water, my friend. See you in the next one.